coming up is a project which didn't have a name half an hour ago. So I'm very curious what the name is. Nitya, the stage is yours.
Our main topic was surveillance and net politics. So first of all, we looked at the problems that come into surveillance. So one of the main problems was that the single companies collecting lots of data, they use that and they collect the data, but not only do they keep it, but they also use it like they want to, which is not always how we want our data to be used. So we then brainstormed ideas for how this could be changed. So then we came up with the concept of combining gameplay and generative art to raise awareness for why companies collecting our data is actually a big problem in the actual world. So then we came up with a demonstration which shows why the surveillance is a big problem, and that we don't have to hide that it's a big problem because it's been happening all over the world all the time. But we came up with a small game to show how this problem is only getting bigger by the day. Now I hand over to Samrita to tell you more about it.
We just wanted to create a platform to show how our data is being engulfed. So with the help of coordinates, in JavaScript, we created a game. In this game, there are some dots representing our data and a square which represents us, and a big circle called Big Zuck, who is actually our enemy, who's engulfing our data. So here we are trying to save our data from Big Zuck, who is constantly growing and consuming our data. And we are not able to do anything about it. So in the process of to stop him, we have to move our cursor to collect the data and save it from him, engulfing it. I would like Noah to introduce you with the technicalities required for it.
Yeah, like Samrita has said, and you can already see that's how the game looks like. So the green square is the player and dots the data, and you can actually collect it. In the top left corner, there's also a little counter implemented to count how much data is saved and how much is lost to Facebook or Google or another evil company. You can also try to just do something about it and make the circle a little smaller, but it doesn't help much. And in the end, the circle contains everything. Yes, that's the code. It's beautiful, it's colorful, and I think that's the most important thing about it. And it works. Yep.
And then our project kind of had like a segment project within it. And so what we're thinking about is that we kind of want to find a way to visualize the data that Google collects about us. And so I don't know if you all know that, but there's a service called Google Takeout where you can request to download the data that Google collects about you. And so we did that. And we went through the files, and to be honest, it was very creepy because apparently I've been using Google since 2014. And back then I wasn't really concerned about privacy because I was, not that old. So what we did is that we took a look at the data sets first. And so our initial idea was to create some kind of generative art based on that. So for example, if the hours of YouTube videos that you watch per week is, I don't know, above 5 or something, maybe you would get a red background. And then if you send more than 20,000 past week, you would maybe get circled, stuff like that. So we thought that that could be a good idea. But given the very limited time and some problems that we've encountered, we didn't really get there, but we tried something else. And so our main problem was that the data that we had to handle was very, very sensitive. So we used my data for this, and my laptop isn't the best. So it kept crashing, which I think is okay because we had huge files, obviously. But then we found smaller data sets. But still, what was difficult is that when we thought, for example, we could just simply use another laptop because we did peer programming, so we could have just chosen a different laptop. Even though I trust all the people in my group, I would not necessarily give them my location data from the past 5 years, or 6 now. But that was a problem that we've encountered, and just the size of the files was just larger than anything I've ever worked with. So that was a little difficult. But then something that we decided to do was just to pick like seemingly random things and just maybe plot them. And this is kind of like where we got. So if you scroll up a little bit, Noah. So the wonderful scatter plot, which doesn't really have a title or a description of the axes yet. So what is plotted there are my YouTube subscriptions. And the x-axis is the length of the title or the name of the channel. And on the y-axis, you can see the length of the description that the channel gave themselves. And this is just like a proof of concept. Like you see that like we were able to extract that data, and then next step would be to visualize it in some kind of pretty way. And for us, it was important that when we continue this after the hackathon, there's also some degree of randomness in it. So maybe we'll just select like 5 of your subscriptions or something, so that each time, even if you execute the program a couple of times, it still looks different. But then maybe you can go down a little bit. So for example, that is from my Google search history. I know I turned it off a while ago, so it's not the most accurate, but those are 27,000 search terms that I could take a look at there. And so we analyzed them, and so you can see that almost half of them are .com or enten.com and stuff like that. And then another thing that we did that we couldn't find a way to visualize yet was that we kind of computed the average location from Google Maps. And obviously, like, some people might say that that's not a smart thing to do, because the average location, for example, if you're in Europe one day and in the US another day, might be somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. But we thought it was still like a fun thing, and for us it wasn't really about like creating something that makes sense, but rather like for us to see the data that Google collects. So that was an educational project for us too, and just going through like the data that was interesting. I think in the future we want to continue working on that, and especially like on the generative art content. And what we're thinking about is that if in the game, if you kind of like collect one of the points, we would like that to represent like one data set or something that Google has about you, and then the background could like change according to the data that you now have or that Google now has. So yeah, we were thinking that you could kind of integrate them both in that way. I think I talked way too much, so yeah, I think that was it from our project.
Don't worry, perfect. It's a super project. Thank you very much, all of you.
Yes. So I think everybody sees that the outcome is amazing. Thanks everybody who participated in today's hackathon. You've been doing really a great job. Never mind if you already had experience before, or if you were just beginning, it was really great Great to have you with us remotely, of course. And we hope you enjoyed the day as well.
Thank you very much from me as well. Thank you for having me to host this and for making these great projects. And thank you to all the viewers online who are actually with us and are actually asking questions on YouTube. So I had a very interesting conversation with somebody who was really interested in all the projects. So you made an impact, and that's what Jugend hackt is about, I think.